The schedule has completely changed due to fears of coronavirus. The home series will be completely canceled moving forward for this season. So, with the online format, and by the way, the schedule is yet to be determined. Call of Duty League will officially announce that in the days or weeks to come. With the online format, I mentioned this earlier, Emily. Dallas had all the hype online. Scrim Gods doing great. Even before the season started, they were the absolute best team by consensus online. They continue to dominate scrims online. Chicago, opposite. They do well online, but the sentiment is they do better on land with the players that they have than they do online. I wonder if we see a increase in value for Dallas Empire and a little bit of a regression for the Chicago Huntsmen. I wouldn't be surprised if this happened based on what has happened this season so far, particularly with scrim results and how well teams like Dallas and LA Optic have been doing. Remains to be seen, but that is my hypothesis. What say you?
I think so. I'm actually gonna take a pause from COD. I'm gonna momentarily bring up the League of Legends Pro League in China, and the only reason I'm going to bring it up is because
Only you can
that
get away with
that
that
league.
segue, by
I
the way.
know, like just squeezing in the LPL. No, it's actually because they started on land at all of their events. They went down due to coronavirus, and then they just recently came back up as a fully online league. And people were thinking about, how are teams going to perform? What are the internet issues going to be with this? Are certain teams going to take it more seriously? Maybe certain teams are going to be a little bit more clowny, a little bit more limit testing. But on the whole, based on the matches that I've seen, they're still pretty competitive. Maybe they're slightly fast and loose, but I mean the LPL teams tend to play that way anyway. So on the whole, it's almost exactly like you're watching it on land, despite the fact that there's a lot of other extenuating circumstances, like certain players can't travel, like different internet pings and issues. And I think those will also affect the league. So just throwing that out there, like I do think we're going to see as a whole the internet infrastructure of the United States being tested like it has never been tested before. Um, but in terms of teams, whether they're going to take it more or less seriously, in COD, we do tend to have teams that are much better online than they are on land for whatever reason, and then teams that are drawing momentum off of being on land. I think FaZe should be fine. I think Dallas should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the rocker only because, again, I do think they were really feeding off of crowd energy. They were feeding off of the fans that they have been able to cultivate. Again, somewhat surprisingly, in my opinion. I know I keep throwing that out there, but it's a small market. Like their branding has been really good, and they have a winning team, which always helps. So I'm looking at. I want to see how the rocker perform. I also want to see how a lot of these teams that didn't necessarily play in LA perform, because they've already been off for a bit, and that might be less, like somehow less of a transition, even though it's only 2 weeks. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think a team like, for example, we mentioned them previously, but like a team like the Subliners might do better just because it's less pressure and it's one added thing that they don't necessarily have to worry about or isn't putting pressure on the team. A team like the Gorillas might end up doing better if they stick with their three new rookies and then
Mm-hmm.
try to go from there, because again, it is a lot different playing online than it is on land, and there are just so many other land factors. So
So there was chatter in our Twitch chat, probably a jokey question here. Who would you pick up, Sensor or Nate Shot? I'm sure everyone would spam Nate Shot in the chat,
oh
but
my god.
this is what I will say about Sensor. He obviously is making his intentions known that he wants a spot on the Subliners roster. And he continuously talks about how he's grinding tens and he's playing and he's scrimming. He's playing online all the time, trying to sharpen up, trying to get better. He has a substantial following, big megaphone on social media, able to broadcast the fact that he wants a spot. Now, I wonder if his skills will be sharper and better suited for an online scenario. I wonder if he will be more suited to get a chance on this roster if they continue to regress in the league in the online format because of how much work he has been putting. I'm not saying he's put in the most effort in the league among all players, but I am saying that people are very well aware of how much effort he is putting in. And on a roster, sitting as a sub right now on a team that is struggling or on a team that might need a fresh look, as we've noticed with Zero getting subbed for Happy in the last event, I wonder if the situation is right and prime for Censor to actually get a look, even if it's for one tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, like I said this last week, but if you're struggling that much, and I can't pretend to know what their internal situation is, but if you're struggling that much, it's one of those things where, like, why not try it out just to see if it works? Then again, I don't know, like, there's so much beyond individuals on a roster, and it's about how they communicate and how they play, and especially in kind of a slower cod like this, um, that's going to be, in my opinion, a little bit more important. So if he fits in like comms, and if he fits in terms of synergy, then why not try it? That would be my thing at this point.
Right.
Because it's not like other things have been working.